Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and as usual, we got a good episode for you today. Today, we actually connect with Eric Christensen, who reached out to me. He's actually based out of South Utah. And he is an entrepreneur. He is a guide. He is a hunter, and he had some really fun stories for me today. So, Eric, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and reaching out. I really do appreciate that. And to you listeners, please check out all the show notes. Eric's doing some really cool stuff, some cool digiscoping and all sorts of miscellaneous things. Please check them out. And while you're doing that, whatever you're listening to us on right now, give us a review. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off, right? Why don't we let Eric now tell you some of his stories? Thank you. All right, Eric, welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. How are you, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. I'm excited to have you here. We've been chatting back and forth a little bit, talking about maybe even some fun business things we can do together, but that's not what the people want to hear or talk about today. What they want to hear is some hunting stories from you. So let's start with this. Why don't you introduce yourself, Eric? Let them know who they're going to be hearing some stories from today.
Yeah, my name's Eric Christensen. I live in southern Utah. Hunting is, like most people that's in your audience, I just have always loved and tried to be involved. I've outfitted for a long time in Utah, Nevada for a friend of mine, and Idaho for a couple of years. So I've always been involved in it in some sort, and then always tried a couple schemes to stay within the industry. I worked for Sportsman's Warehouse for a long time as the hunting manager, guiding and stuff. And so there's every aspect of my adult life has been involved in hunting at some point or way.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Let me ask you a question. I don't normally dig too deep into this kind of stuff, but how does one go about starting being a guide? Where do you approach that, or how did you fall into it?
Growing up, I grew up in Wyoming, and my dad worked for the Forest Service, and he was an engineer for developing roads and different things, and so we were always on the mountain. And he had some friends that owned a company called the Rocky Mountain Fur Company, I believe. But we used to go catch crawdads in the ditch and sell them for a nickel, and then we'd go pick up sheds. I mean, back in the day when shed hunting was unknown, you'd go fill up a truck. I mean, just stuff like that. But they actually, they were super good family friends, and they let me go up in August, late August, on some hunts and set up their camp with their mules. And I would stay a little bit longer than I probably should, but man, their clients would come in and my dad would pull me out. But that's really what hooked me, was just that atmosphere of going up and seeing that and just being part of it. And just, whatever it is that draws me to nature, I love just being there. You just feel home.
Yeah. So, no, I get that. That's awesome.
So that developed a bug. And then when I just graduated high school here in southern Utah, and a friend was guiding, and he's like, man, I need some help. You want to come do it? I'm like, dude, I can't even kill stuff myself. You want me to take clients? But I always loved chasing elk and stuff. And so I took these three guys from Washington State, and they were just a blast, man. Three of the best guys in the world. We had fun. We killed a couple bulls, and then it was cocaine to the veins, man. Just loved it.
That's awesome. That's amazing, man. I've always just dreamt of the idea of just going off and doing that for a couple months, but I have no idea how to get into it. But that's a cool story. And I bet when you were little and you were showing up at those camps, they were probably like, whatever, free labor. This kid we don't have to pay him, and he'll help us out with camp.
Oh yeah. Yep. And it's funny because I hate horses. I've always hated horses. I hated riding them and tending them and stuff. But it was, man, I was abused as a kid, but it was good. It was good.
Abused, but you loved it. So cool, man. Well, hey, Eric, it's nice to actually meet you. That's a great background. And it reminded me a little bit of my own. I'm from Colorado, but the crawdad hunting is something that I definitely remember when I was a little kid. That's the earliest hunting I did. Actual hunting, although I didn't start until about a decade ago. So still relatively new to this and still struggling through it, but whatever. It's about being out there. Sound right?
You got to start somewhere, man. There's people starting every day.
That's right, man. That's right. Cool. Anything else you want to add to your introduction? If not, let's just jump into some stories.
Yeah, dude, we can jump in.
For sure. Why don't you set the stage?
Just reminded me of a story with those first hunters. There were three friends, and they were just nonstop jokes, talking and laughing at each other. And they started off with they try and do one hunt a year, so they try and coordinate and go on one hunt. And this time they were hunting elk down here in the Dutton, and they had some archery tags. And anyway, so the one kind of the nerdy hunter, I guess, liked to read books. Like we'd hike up on the mountain, read books around camp, read books, and so he was famous for taking these books and he would wrap them in like saran wrap, so at the airport the edges didn't get beat up and stuff.
Oh,
And
interesting.
this
Real
was
book nerd. Okay.
yeah, it was actually the year of 9/11 because we were up on the mountain. We came out to eat. We were like watching the news. We're like, oh my god! But so they flew out and they had cut his book open and put a piece of metal in there with some like gay porn pictures and stuff, a whole bunch, and then rewrapped. So when it went through their scanner, they obviously detected the metal, and then they cut it open. He said it was just like a movie, man. The pages, just the little pictures, just fell over the floor.
Yeah,
and I was peeing my pants. It was one of the best stories.
God,
then,
that's too funny.
Yeah,
we did that. So I had a coach in I think it was high school, maybe it was I think it was college. We went on a flight and we filled his like briefcase with all sorts of miscellaneous pornography. Yeah, and he got very upset, and we had to run a lot of lines. So, funny now, funny then, but not in between for that little bit. But yeah, that's a great story, man.
Totally worth it, man. Oh, what's another story that's awesome? So I mean, it's just some of the crazy things you see in the mountains as a guide. I mean, you deal with a lot of great people, and you deal with some that are not so great. And this one repeat client, we were up on the beaver hunting a particular elk, and this drainage you'd have to hike into, and you had to commit and stay the day. And we're sitting there eating, and well, we're kind of chilling out, kind of half dozing off, half waiting for the elk to get up. And we see all these cattle come out this bottom, about 300 yards out of this bottom of this drainage along this river. And of course, it catches your attention. What's going on? Why are these cattle coming out? And then we see a horse guy up pushing them at the top of the drainage from the trees. Dude, as he comes out, we're not really paying attention at this point because he's just pushing cows out for the summer range, off the summer range. And the client looks at me and he's like, dude, I don't think that guy's wearing clothes. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So we pull up. So of course you have to it's like a train wreck. You throw your binos up and you're like, what? Dude, the dude was on a horse with just his chaps on, pushing cows, man. You're just watching this as a train wreck. And you're like, am I really seeing this right now? And look at each other. And it's just one of those times you just never forget on the mountain.
Yeah. Just chaps, nothing else.
I had no idea how the nuggets weren't getting crushed on that saddle, but dude, I've never seen anything like that. And I've guided almost my whole life, so that's just so one funny. Of those top memorable moments.
I can believe that. You don't forget that. That gets burned into your retinas. I'm going to make a safe assumption that you probably didn't go have a conversation with that gentleman.
Nah, we let him roll with the cows, man.
Yep.
I think Brokeback Mountain was out around that same time, so I we weren't messing with that. Dude.
That's too good, man. Oh, let me ask you this: what is just because you've got all this guiding experience, and I don't get too many folks, plenty of folks a little bit of guiding, but we dive into all these other places, and I never think to ask this. What is the worst, and you can keep specifics out of it, what is the worst experience you've had as a guide, whether it's because of a terrible hunt, terrible weather, or kind of what I'm leaning towards is like a terrible guest? Have you ever had just a guest that you're like, this guy, I can't handle him? Hey, hunters. Have you ever had one of those stories, the ones that you didn't want to tell, the ones that end in failure? Yeah, I've been there. Actually, you know what? The culprit for me usually is bad optics, or worse, lack of using my optics at all. Picture this. I spot a trophy buck, or an antelope, or an elk, whatever it may be. My heart is racing, but the blurry view, or I just can't quite identify exactly what I'm looking at, it has me second guessing. Well, that's where Vortex Optics comes in. With crystal clear glass and rugged durability, Vortex gives you the confidence to take the shot. Don't let poor optics ruin your story. Make every moment count. Upgrade to Vortex and turn your hunting tales into triumphs. Visit vortexoptics.com today.
Yeah, probably the one that comes to mind is this gentleman booked a hunt, and he was pretty nice. He was a dentist and had a brother that was sort of local to Utah. This guy was from Nevada. He was a dentist in Nevada. and drew a pretty good archery tag. And at this point, I was pretty established. I mean, there's not a lot of things in life I was good at, but killing elk was one, and so it really helped blossom. But anyway, so he booked a hunt, and he wanted to bring his brother. And at the time, I really didn't have a lot of non-guests, and so I was like, "Yeah, man, that's fine." So he was in camp, and it was fine the first day. We kind of hiked a little hard, and the dentist wasn't in shape, which is always a nightmare for guiding because clients are never in shape. But so the first day we're on this elk. Oh no, excuse me. This guy booked a rifle hunt. So the first day we were chasing a bull that we were chasing during archery. That was a big bull, and it was like a 310 bull was sitting there with some cows, and the brothers wanting the client to shoot it, and I'm like, no, dude, that's not what this guy wants, and it's not. The other bull's here somewhere. We just got to hunt for him. So we had to go on this big hike, and the dentist, the client, got all sore and was kind of complaining, and so we took it easy. The next day, just kind of would drive around, just glass out of the truck, and then if we wanted to see something, we'd go after it. So that night, the brother kind of pulls me aside. He's like, "Man, you screwed up. That bull, we should have killed that bull that was laying there in that field the first day." I'm like, "Well, I disagree, man. Like, you hired me for a reason, so let's, if you trust me, let's keep hunting." So it kind of simmered down, and then that was the first time I'd actually been confronted as a guide. But then the next morning, we're going back in the same area where we passed the bull, but this big bull he's there somewhere. Yeah, and this freaking same bull comes out, and we're sitting there, and about 150 yards, and this thing lays down in the same field with the cows, and we're kind of stuck, but we're trying to figure out, is that mid morning where your morning's kind of over, so you got to retool and go somewhere else. And his brother is like, I'm like, let's go, and the brother's like, but the client's just like, dude, you're out of your effing mind. We're killing this bull. So we and him like basically start yelling at each other.
This is the brother or the actual guy who has the tag, or do they both have tags?
No, the client, the guy with the tag didn't say. He's just kind of like, he's just there. He's not really saying yay or nay. He's actually, trust me, but the brothers thinks he's from Utah, man. And there's a lot of good dudes from Utah, but there's a lot of there's a lot of guys from Utah, if you know what I'm saying.
You can say that about every state, I think.
The Utah reason is first in this guy. But
I don't know if I've heard that before. But okay, keep going. Sorry, you guys are arguing.
We're arguing about this, and I'm like, man, if you don't want to trust me as a guide, then let's talk about that. But if this guy, he wants a certain type of bull, and that's what he's going after, and this does not qualify at it at all. And so we leave, and me and this guy are like, we're kind of simmered down, but then we get back to camp, and it fires back up, and this guy's riding my shit, and I'm like, I look at the client, I'm like, bro, like I don't have a problem with you, but I'm not dealing with this, and here's your check. I wrote him back his check, and I said, I'm done. I got better things to do. I'm spending time away from my family. You guys hired me for my experience and whatever, man. So then they go back. So they leave camp. Like, it's just a mess, right? So I'm loading camp, and I leave to go to another area where we had some other clients to help out. And then like 3 weeks later, that client calls, and he's like, man, I apologize. My brother I shouldn't have trusted my brother, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's your brother. Blood's blood, man. So they killed that bull, and it was like, it was like a 300-inch bull, and he was all pissed off and upset. And I'm like, but that was by far the worst. I've never had to give a client back their money.
That's crazy. So a 300-inch bull is not a bad bull, but what kind of bull was he holding out for, and what was realistic for that unit?
Oh, 360 plus is
no way. Okay,
it's pretty. Damn. I mean, this is a limited entry. This is one of 15 tags, so it's not like you're like in Colorado. It's not like you're competing for every elk on the mountain. It's pretty limited.
Okay, I was gonna say, man, I would happily have a 300-inch bull, but okay. If 360 is an option, then maybe I'll pass on a 300. But okay.
Yeah, and it's just relative to the unit. I mean, that was what we were killing consistently was there and above, and it just goes to just have experience, man. When you've never really killed and hunted those, you don't know. And when one looks big, it can look big, and this is what it did to his brother, and he was holding his ground, and I was young, and I'm pretty stubborn dude. When my fuse gets lit, it's pretty hard to diffuse it. So, but that's worse.
Yeah, in your story, you sound very level-headed. I'm sure in real life, maybe it wasn't quite as cool, calm, and collected. but you did a good job.
The second time I lost it, I was like, I'm done. We're going back to camp and settling this, and I'm just.
There you go. There you go. Well, interesting. Okay. Yeah. I was curious how that dynamic goes, and just like, if every client's good. I just assume they all came in, like every client comes in probably a few pounds heavier than you'd like them to be. But beyond that, I was curious of the bigger story. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah. Unless any other stories have popped into your mind, you said you had one with your kids. I'd love you to dive into that one if you could.
So I'm 48 and I've been guiding, man, since I was 19. The last maybe 6 years, I really haven't guided a lot. Oh, excuse me, 4 years. But I mean, hunting is what we do. If we can go hunting, we're going to go. And I finally have a boy that loves to go, and he got lucky and killed a 365 bull last year. Just got on a unit that we were going to kill a raghorn, and it's just luck,
No
man.
way.
The bull came out and we dumped him, and he's hooked like me. And then he had a deer tag this year and started playing football, so we didn't have a lot of time. But you're just on the mountain there, just sitting with your kid and in nature and glassing and teaching him and watching him get excited about seeing deer. And with this new system that I got coming out, I get the luxury of testing it, and we threw some binos up, and it's been a hard hunt for 2 days, and we were getting after it. But he had actually glassed up a bedded buck from pretty far away. And it's just the whole spot and stalk is what I don't know. That's where I've really drawn to really love. And so we were kind of running out of time, and you're just cruising down to try and get position on this buck to hopefully it's a shooter and we can get a shot off, and because it's your kid, and just to
bow or rifle. I'm sorry, I didn't ask earlier.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's a rifle deer hunt here in Utah.
Okay, cool.
Utah is a dedicated hunter. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. So you can draw it, and then you get a hunt for 3 years on that tag, the same unit, but you can only kill 2 deer in the 3 years, and you have to go do 32 hours of service of some kind to qualify for this program.
I've never even heard of that. That's pretty cool. It's amazing that you have it for multiple years, multiple deer, and that you have to give back for it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so we've been planting a lot of bitter brush in the same unit, which is cool. So he gets to kind of see the work and that there's more to hunting than just pulling the trigger and stuff. It's an awesome program. So anyway, so this is the second year of this program. He didn't kill a deer the first year, and the second year we hadn't seen very many deer, but this is a pretty nice buck. So you're half there trying to take the lead, but you're kind of realizing as a dad, you're like, hey, I got to let this kid kind of make some decisions and start learning. And so he started going down. I'm like, hey, where are we going to go? Where are you going to go set up on this buck? And he's making decisions to go certain areas, and you're kind of like, are you sure about that? Like maybe up here, and you're kind of guiding. So it's that part of being there with guiding him, but not letting get out of control, or him, kind of making a bigger mistake. And so we go set up on this deer, and it doesn't work. We have to keep going down. And we finally get set up, and but it's getting dark. We have 15 minutes of light, and it's 590, so it's a poke. But we're set up with a good rig, and I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna howl, man. I don't know what else to do, so I just do a stupid coyote howl, and the deer stands up.
Really?
He turns perfect for us, and I'm like, you got him, and he's like, yeah. And there was like a bush that maybe was thicker than. I'm like, I don't know, dude. You got a shot, and it was like the best moment for him to say, Dad, I don't have a shot, and you're kind of like, dude, blow through that. But then I'm like, it's your call, you're shooting. And he's like, no, I don't have a shot. And I'm like, well, we got 10 minutes now. So I howl again, and this freaking buck takes 2 steps, and he shoots and dumps him. And it's just
no way.
Yeah. Just to see his face and sharing that moment as a dad, that's what, man, I don't care if that buck was a spike. It was awesome. That was fun.
That's cool, especially to kind of give him the leash, or give him a little slack on the leash, right? You're guiding him, but you also want him to make his own decisions, and that's a good mentality. I think I say it often. I say it on this podcast. I say it in my life, but the best lessons are self-taught, right? You got to make mistakes to really learn the good lessons, and giving him room to do that and not letting your guide instinct kick in that's good on you, man. That's tough, and it's good.
But that's where when he asks questions about things, it's like, dude, all this knowledge is because of all of the mistakes I've made. It's not because I just have this magic power. It's freaking, I've blown a lot of stuff out and ruins a lot of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty special when you have kids get into it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I have a 5-year-old. I can't wait till he's fired up and ready to get out there with me. He wants to. He actually. I told him he needs to walk a long ways because he's always asking to be carried. I was like, you can't be carried in the woods if you're going to go hunting with Dad. And this week he changed his tone to, Dad, I want you to pick me up from school. I want Mom to take Haley, our 3-year-old daughter. And he's like, and then you and I are going to walk home. And I'm like, you're going to walk home from school? I'm like, that's a good walk, man. And I was like, I'm not going to carry you. He's like, I know, but if I do it, we can go hunting, right? And I'm like, we'll go turkey hunting. We can do something, but you're not going to go hunt elk. He's like, I want to kill elk, Dad. So he's got the itch, which is great.
Oh, man. Cure that, or massage that itch, dude. Get him involved, man. We need our youth involved as much, but it's so, that's a tough age because they're just, they can't sit still and they're talking, and it's a little frustrating when you're young, but dude, you get them hooked as much as you can. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take. I shot an archery antelope this year, and I never want to do that again. That sucked. Everything about archery, spot and stock antelope hunting. So I think that I'll still get a tag, and then maybe bring him along for that, or maybe bring him along for one of my buddies' hunts, where like you're kind of in the car a good amount of the time, right? When you're driving around looking for antelope, and the adults or one of the adults will get out, go stalk those antelope, and he can sit there and watch with some binoculars. I think that might be a good option for him for his first hunt, because you're right. 10 minutes in a blind, he'd be bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, but I mean, blind, if you had something to kind of keep his attention, that because then your animals are up close and they get that connection, man. That's really
true.
interesting.
Yeah,
so that'd be cool.
I have some connections in Texas. Maybe I'll sneak down there and find a way to get him on a hog hunt or something that's not a big tag that I'm worried about not being able to fill. Right,
dude. If you got connections in Texas, man, like I went down to do. I have this product called a quarter pad. So you lay it out and you it's through base camp, and as a guiding, I got sick of trying to find you buy like bed sheets and shower curtains and stuff to lay your meat on, and we developed this quarter pad where you can just lay it on. It's just a super lightweight pad that's breathable, waterproof. But you can lay your meat on it to quarter and it doesn't get dirty. And so I needed to go make his video, but a controlled environment. So I contacted a guy in Texas, and we shot some axis deer, some does.
Oh, that's delicious.
Yeah.
Love axis.
And I'm like, dude, can I bring my kids? He's like, dude, there's no correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's like an age limit on hunting Texas. So like you could bring your boy down as long as you can shoot it. I think you can shoot something. And so we're going to go
certain
down.
species, yeah, I think you're right. There, like for hogs, you could be a 1 month old with a rocket launcher. They don't care. But for like whitetail, like I think you technically have to get like a license and do the whole hunter ed thing and all that stuff. So there is requirements there. But hogs and axis deer, I don't believe there's any rules whatsoever.
Yeah, he was saying bring them down. So for us, I'm not really a high fence guy. I wouldn't like just go hunt one just to go hunt it for like trophies. But dude, go down there for like it's like grocery shopping in the wild. It was the axis is sick. So we're definitely going to try and go back this next spring and bring a couple of my boys to go shoot some stuff. But if you can do that with him,
it's so great.
That'll hook him hard, man.
Yeah. I don't know if you see my axis hide over my shoulder here. That's from, I went to Molokai, Hawaii in June, and there's some free range axis out there. It was fun. Dude. It was a hard hunt, though. It was absolutely phenomenal. I went with some great guys. Shed Crazy, he's a Utah guy. I don't know if you know Rick Trimmer, Utah as well. Ryan Mickler, they were all there, all Utah guys. And I think almost everybody got a deer, and it's just so much fun. And it was cool because most of the hunting I've done, it's like elk hunting, right? You're hoping for that one opportunity where you get to draw your bow back and you get to fling that one arrow. There are so many axis deer on Molokai. They're like, I had plenty of opportunities, and I lost a lot of arrows because they are fast. Like, I was shooting at 60 yards, and I shot probably when you let go of a good arrow, and that's a perfect arrow, you're like, yes. I had that feeling multiple times, and the deer just like walked off, like just completely. I missed entirely. Like they're so fast and so jumpy.
Like they just ducked the string.
Or just ran off. Like they were gone. It's not like I missed high or low. They were just gone. They just were that quick. But it was cool to be able to make the adjustments. Like I had something on my bow that was rattling, so I took it off, and then I moved forward a little bit, and eventually all of a sudden I connected, and I got myself a nice. I think it's like a 29-inch buck, which. Hell, I would have been happy with a doe. I just wanted meat because it's my favorite eating meat, axis deer.
So good. Axis is tremendously good.
Yeah, I think I shot a moose this year too, a cow moose, and that's right there with axis deer. They're both so tasty. My wife loves them both, and she's not a big whitetail fan. So I know there's plenty of whitetail hunters out there that love it. My wife, I'm trying to trick her into liking it, so I'll get there eventually. But for now, moose and axis deer is for her.
Yeah, and you probably got enough moose for last a little while.
Yeah, right. And yep, definitely. I think it'll probably last a year and a half. I still have some from my elk from 2 years ago. So freezer's full right now, but I don't think I'm a very good hunter. I think I've had a good year and a half. So I'm glad I have plenty because I might need it in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Cool, Eric. Well, what else you got for us, man? Any other fun stories that popped into your head? Are you ready to elevate your archery game? Summit Bowstrings delivers premium strings for all archers, crafted with bloodline fiber and BCY material stretched for unmatched consistency. Choose from 3 series: Hunter, Competition, and Summit. Each string is built bison tough with unique techniques for extreme durability and performance. Ideal for both seasoned hunters and target archers. Experienced strings designed to handle any challenge. Visit summitbowstrings.com and use HSP10 for a 10% discount.
Man, I mean, they're just all kind of hunt stories. There's nothing special, like another story.
How about this?
Okay.
Unless you have one on the top of your head, what is the dumbest thing you or a buddy have done in the woods that you can remember? And why don't you give us that story, but not just what they did, kind of build up the story and let us know. And if you can't think of anything, that's fine too.
No, it's actually what developed capture, man. My new magnetic ditch scope deal. So, like I said, I used to guide in before Utah had late hunts. Well, actually, we had late hunts at this time, but before we did, for the late elk, I would go to Nevada and guide for a buddy of mine over there. And this was my last year with him. This was 2015 is when the idea came about. So he called me, booked a client, and I hadn't really hunted the unit very much, so I knew it a little bit. So I wasn't as prepared as I would like to be. So I go over meet this guy, and this guy's like 68, and he brought his wife, and she's an Asian doctor from, I think they were from Reno or somewhere. Super nice couple, but so we're going to dinner, getting kind of situated, and asking him questions. I'm like, so what's your rifle? And he's like, I got a 375 H&H. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, how far can you shoot? And he's like, about 200 yards. And I'm like, bro, this is like, I'm not going to get you 200 yards. And I'm thinking this kind of and saying it out loud. I'm like, man, you need to be able to shoot further than that. So we had my friend had a rifle set up from a Gunworks, and so that we borrowed that you just kind of range and just to adjust your turret. Yeah. And the biggest mistake the first mistake started right there. We should have went and shot after that first morning look. We didn't really see anything we wanted to go look. We should have went and shot the rifle, but I'm like, man, you just point, dial, and shoot. It's not that hard, and we've done it before. So we go for 3 or 4 days, and then one of their other guides had finished, and he came down to spot, and he found this bull down low. It was a pretty big bull. So we went and hunted him for like 2 days, couldn't find him, and then so we went back on the other end of the unit where we were seeing some other elk, and it was just a tough hunt. And as a guide life, you deal with these people, but man, he kept freaking blowing his nose in tissues, right? And I have like this, I don't like tissues. I don't know what it is, but like used tissues is like just disgusting. So he was blowing
understandable.
He was blowing these tissues, and I wasn't really paying attention. I thought he was shoving them in his pocket. But after the hunt, I go over to clean up, and my door, the little compartment of the door, is loaded with nasty tissues, man.
Disgusting.
So that was anyway. So he'd been doing
he was a doctor?
His wife was. I can't remember what he did.
Okay.
He did something.
Yeah, I was going to say, a doctor wouldn't be spreading germs like that. Gross. Okay, sorry.
No. Yeah, it's so super sick. Like worst cleanup ever. But she would just sit in the back and read books and like kind of talk every once in a while. And it's one of the boring times because you're as a guide. I'm not really like social butterfly. Like I talk hunting, other things I have interest on, but just to chit chat, I'm not like that guy. And so it was a lot of just silent drives, and then we would talk about hunting or let's go look over here. Do you think you could hike up here? And this guy only had maybe 2 good hikes in him, or his legs would be burned out. But anyway, so we're trying to hunt this other bull this guy's seen, and we don't see him. So we go to the other end of the unit, and this other bull we've been looking for shows up, but he's broke, and so this guy doesn't want to shoot him. So we're like, crap. So we got 2 days left, and that morning we went down low, and the one guy got us and said, "Man, I see the bull that we're looking for down low, and it is a real pretty bull." So we go over, get this guy all situated, grab his stuff, and start rolling out. And he grabbed his backpack, and I hadn't really touched his backpack this whole time, but it's like this old leather Indiana Jones style, and it had freaking rollers on the bottom, like for airplanes. This was his backpack, dude.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we go after this elk, and we're going as fast as we can. He does pretty good, and we go set up on this elk, and Phone Scope had come out with a new adapter where the top had slid off, and it was brand new, and I just had a brand new phone. So I get everything set up. We're rolling on this elk, filming, and this guy's set up, and then I dialed the range, and he shoots, and it's like 10 feet low. And I'm like, what the shit? I'm like, did you put it right on him? He's like, yeah. So he shoots again, same distance low, and so I'm looking at it, and I'm
Did
like,
it not move after the shots? Just
it did
stood there?
a little bit, but it was, this was like 600 yards, and for whatever reason, they weren't spooked. He was in a group with like 5 or 6 cows and another small bull.
Okay, got it.
So we get time for one more shot, same thing, way low, and they run off, and I'm like, what the frick, dude? Like, anyway, I had dialed the dope wrong on the scope and screwed it up. So it was my fault. New gun. We should have done our due diligence and shot and been more familiar with our weapon. So 100% on me.
Yeah.
But I go to grab my spotting scope, and my camera's gone. My phone's gone. And I'm like, what the shit? Because it's kind of chaos. We're trying to run up there to go get on the hill. And I look down, and my phone had slid off and landed right at a rock, broke. Done. Brand new phone. I'm like, you got to be shitting.
Damn it.
So we kind of get in this point, and I watch this bull go up in this canyon, and the other elk fed off, but this elk stays. And we go over and get set up on this elk, and he's somewhere in this we get up on this point, and the wind's starting to be pretty good for us. And the bull kind of runs out. He must have been below us and saw us. So the guy's set up for where we think the elk's going to come out, and we got the dope set up right this time. But that elk had come out below us kind of quicker than we expected, and I'm like, you got to move. And dude, I'm kind of sitting. So this guy's laying prone, and I'm sitting about mid-rifle, kind of where the scope is on his right side.
Okay.
And so he's got to pick it up and move around me a little bit as I'm trying to back up. And he grabs the gun and boom, grabs the trigger. Didn't have it on safety.
No.
I didn't know, man. This just scares the shit out of you. You're like looking around like, am I dead? Like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
So,
do I still have all my limbs? Jesus.
Yeah, so again, he shouldn't have had that weapon, but it is what it is. And so
was he going like, so she was trying to go from one side of you to the other side of you.
He was just going to pick up his rifle and take like 2 little knee steps and reset. And that's all we had to do to shoot this bull. It was like 300 yards.
Did it at least have, where did that round go? Did it go into the ground? Did it just into the sky, never be seen?
It went up in the mountain. It wasn't like straight up in the air, but because like it was on a bipod, right? And so when he went to pick it up, it just had shot up in the mountain. So we were fine that way. But
that's scary, man. That's so scary.
Dude, scares the living crap out of you. So then the bull runs off. We don't get a shot, nothing. And his hunt ended. He didn't kill a bull, and then my phone's broke. So on the way back from Nevada, I'm sitting in my truck, all pissed off of myself, and we didn't kill it because it was a pretty good bull. But that's when the idea
a bunch of snotty little tissues.
Oh, dude, that was horrible, man. Horrible. And he didn't kill an elk, but no tip. Like, it was just, that's the worst when you don't get tipped as a guide. Because I can't. How often does it,
even when you don't kill, how often does that happen? I would. That's, I don't know. This guy also stashing sneezes in your door. Maybe it's just that's the character of the human more so than anything else. But yeah, how what would you say? 5% of the time you don't get tipped, or
it's less than that. It's a service tip, right? So it's based on how you're doing as a guide and stuff. And so I didn't expect a big tip, but it's, the problem with this is this guy, it's a Nevada high, like, I'm sure it took him 20 plus years to draw this tag because it's a late season primo tag. So he had a ton of points into it, and then I don't think he's ever booked a hunt, so he doesn't have any experience with it.
Okay.
And maybe he didn't know he's supposed to tip. I don't know. But I've been shafted a couple times, but it's not very rare or very often.
How often do people come in? I assume it sounds like you guys are, it takes a couple points. How often do you get people that like have a couple points but don't have any hunting experience and they're kind of like first timers?
Not so much in Utah. Nevada is a little more green. But I was up in Idaho for 2 years. A buddy, it's a little different up in Idaho. So they, as an outfitter in Idaho, as an outfitter, you get approved. You get an area. So you're an area on a map, and you're the only outfitter in there, and you can get certain tags and stuff. And so it kind of gives you a little more security with that stuff. And so he had some private land. This was 5 years ago, and he calls me, and I didn't have anything solid. I was just kind of working, I think at Pepsi at the time. And he's like, man, why don't you come run this? I'm going to buy this other outfitter allocations. That's 5 areas. Why don't you come run it, set it up? We'll do some stuff. I'm like, cool, man. So I go set it up. And anyway, so he ended up buying 5 areas in southeast Idaho. And it was a different, Utah, Nevada is trophy hunters. Like, it's different than it is Colorado. Like, everybody's pretty much chasing a number. And that kind of ruins hunting. It ruined hunting for me a little bit. So Idaho was awesome because these guys would come in with zero experience, or they had a lot of hunting experience but they hadn't killed. Like, I'll share another story, man. So this guy, he booked a hunt. Him and his buddy drew archery tags in '76 up in Idaho. Pretty good unit. Like for Idaho, it's 300. Every once in a while they pull a 350 bull out, but your 280 to 300 is kind of what your target bull is.
Okay.
And so we're hunting our butt off, and we go into this kind of roadless area, and the elk are going just crazy, and it's foggy. It's just like a dream morning, and the bulls aren't responding as far as coming in, but they're just ripping and going. And so we chase them all day, and we're kind of working our way back because we're in there quite a ways. And this bull's sounding off, but then these cows kind of come on this opposite ridge as we're walking down this drainage. So we're walking down this drainage. There's a mature sounding bull on our left, bugling, and all of a sudden open on the right is some cows and 2 spikes. So we're kind of stuck. We don't want to spook them, and we're hoping this bull's going to come down. And this spike steps out at 40 yards, and he's like, "I'm going to shoot that spike," and I'm like, "No, you're not." Like, we're 4 miles back in here, dude. And I'm like, "And you got a bull bugling?"
No, you're not.
So he's like, dude, he's like, goes, Eric, I've been hunting for 10 years. He was from Colorado. I want to say somewhere over by Denver, Aurora or somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. That's a suburb for sure.
He's like, dude, I've hunted elk for 10 years and I've never killed an elk. And I'm like, well, I mean, you're like, well, dude, you're wearing, it makes sense when you hang out with the guy, right? Like, he's a good dude, but just no hunting.
I don't know what that means. I don't think I killed my first elk until 10 years, Eric. I don't know what you're saying here. Well, but that's just Colorado hunting. It's tough. There's a lot of hunters out there.
For sure. So he's like, no, I'm shooting this thing. And I'm like, bro, like, no, like, we're 4 miles down here, dude. And we just found a pile of elk. He's like, no, I'm killing the spike. And I'm like, all right, man. I just said, dude, if you're going to be happy, okay. But as he's getting lined up, I'm kind of filming with my cell phone because we're 40 yards, and I got my bugle tube by my knee, and I'm shaking it like I'm trying to scare this freaking spike off behind this guy. I don't want to shoot it, and that's probably horrible, but this bull is right here. So he unleashes and smoked it and killed the spike. But he was so happy, man. So it was cool to be part of that hunting experience, right? Where people are like just enthusiastic and just the love for hunting.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Utah, you get so tainted with it's numbers and this and that, and it's the cultures. It's toxic with some people and a lot of the hunting community. But it was cool, man. I'm really glad he did. The pack out sucked because
I bet
packing a spike on your back is not bad, but man, just like, dude, we could at least kill a branch antlered bull or a 6-point, But
that's too funny, man. He was probably very, very happy to have some meat in his freezer. Also, if he's been doing it for 10 years and never got any, I know that I have a buddy that's in a similar category. And every time he goes home, his wife's like, "So what did you do out there then?"
Yeah.
And so now the wife can go, "Oh, you got an elk. There you go. All right, it was all worth it."
So, and that's one of my best tips I've ever had. It was crazy money for what
Oh,
he tipped me,
really?
'cause he was out of the moon.
Gah.
So that's
That's
kind of
awesome.
your question kind of sparked that, but.
I love that. And we did go down a little bit of a rabbit hole there. I know that you were actually talking about when your phone broke, and then you had the idea for capture. So we kind of diverted from that, but maybe you can go into that just a second.
Yeah, dude, so Captures, we just launched last month in November, and it's a story I use for my kids because it's a nightmare to get an idea started because I don't have money, I don't come from money, so you need that investment to get going. But I had the idea, so driving back from that Nevada trip, I'm like, freak, man, there's got to be a better way, and that's when I was like, man, I wonder if you can do magnets on there. So the prototyping started in 2015. And then just trying to find an avenue to get this launched and find some money to back it and go. And it just, with life, I had to provide versus an idea for the family. So the idea came last. And so it's kind of just a roller coaster to try and get this launched. I went through 2 people. And then ironically enough, that when I decided to go in 2020, 2019 with my buddy to guide in Idaho, he had some cow hunters. He's like, hey, come up to this private ground up in northern, or I guess central Idaho, to take these cow hunters for me. So I go and meet these 2 guys, and they're firearms manufacturers out of Mesa, Arizona. And I'm like, we're talking, and they're engineers. And I'm like, hey, man, you guys got a machine shop? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, bro, I got an idea. Here's the thing. And they're like, dude, let's do it. So that was where it all started. And so it took me 5 years to get to somebody that was super interested. So they made a prototype. We kind of fleshed it out, and then we got the patents for it, which is why we haven't released until now. We were wanting to get protected. And so our system is fully patented, and we are going to we will enforce some patent stuff down the road. But that's the journey that took it. So that one instant that happened on that hunt has brought me to where we're launching Capture. So it's a fully magnetic system. And what I hated about the systems on the market is the phone case is bulky and big. And so I want an everyday case. And then the other thing that drove me absolutely nuts is everybody does like a friction fit adapter. So it goes over the outside of your optics eye cup. And when you're doing that, it's hard to glass through. It's obtrusive. And worst of all, when you're on a target and an animal, usually you don't have a few seconds to film. But if you're zoomed in at all and you try and put your friction fit adapter on that scope, it moves it. And that was like the content was more important than anything, and it would throw it off, and it just drove me nuts. And so what's really cool about ours is we actually buy the eye cups from Swarovski, Kowa, and Maven, Zeiss, and we actually take out the inside piece and put our connect piece in. And so you remove your factory eye cup and thread ours on, and it's built right into the optic. And then you just attach.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And our adapter comes off, so you can use your phone as an everyday case and use it when you don't want. You don't have to switch cases. And so it took us years to get to here. So it's exciting, but the roadblocks to get here, man, that's a whole nother story. We were supposed to be out in August, and in September, October hit, and then November we finally got launched. But now we got to do the 16 cases, and it's a process. And you got to get the word out. So
every time I see somebody doing something like that, I'm always jealous of those systems. I have a buddy. He's got the new Sig Sauer binos that like have the auto stabilization.
Yeah, dude,
he's got those, and he couldn't find a system that would actually fit him. So he basically like glued a magnet to the front of those, and like glued a magnet like a metal sheet onto his phone. So he like it's a bunch of duct tape basically on these really expensive, really nice things. But man, you get some great footage, and it's also just a relief on the eye if you're gonna do a lot of glassing. Being able to just put your phone up there and sit back and look rather than like squinting down and getting your head in the right position. And that's where I struggle with glassing. I get real stiff. So I think what you're doing is cool, man. I've always wanted basically, what do they call? What is the term for that? They
just digiscope. Use your smartphone to optics.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's very cool. Let me. Do you have any other stories? Otherwise, I want to ask you a couple other things about some of your other products because you mentioned a few. But Imagine this. You're deep in the wilderness. The sun is rising, casting golden light over rugged terrain. Your heart races as you navigate through the backcountry, knowing the perfect shot could come at any moment. This is where memories are made and stories are born. Ultralight rifles are often seen as Mountain West guns, but the Ridgeline FFT from Christensen Arms breaks that mold. This stellar, lightweight rifle is your perfect companion, whether you're in the backcountry or box blind, ensuring you never have to switch between your builds. With its aero-grade carbon fiber barrel and stock, the Ridgeline FFT is incredibly lightweight, yet powerful. Thanks to its innovative side baffle brake, it reduces recoil even on a 5-pound gun shooting magnum calibers. It's like black magic. As a sub-MOA tack driver made in America, the Ridgeline FFT is for those who seek the thrill of the hunt and the joy of storytelling. Picture yourself returning to camp, Ridgeline FFT in hand, ready to share the day's adventures. Head to your local shop, pick one up. You've got to feel this rifle to believe it. Let the Ridgeline FFT be part of your hunting stories and the legacy you pass down.
Nothing. There's one more, dude, that's pretty funny.
Let's do it.
So this where was he from? His name was Denny, and he was awesome old dude. He was an old guy. Drew the Beaver Mountains in Utah is like hard to draw tag. Like I think right now it's mid to high 20s for points to draw the tag as a resident. So very, very hard to draw. He draws, I can't remember how many points, but archery, and he's kind of an older guy, can't get around, so you're kind of limited, but super, super good dude, just fun to hang out with, and the best stories. And he was from the Midwest, and so the mountains he'd never really been in the mountains much, but so we're kind of just going where we can with him. And one day he's like, man, he says, Eric, I'm feeling good today, let's go on an all day. And I'm like, let's do it. So we get dropped off on this higher point, and kind of it's going to take us all day to work down to the bottom, and we'll be picked up. And halfway through, we're just at that same time, that midday just nap time, and kind of vegging and eating lunch, figure out stuff. And I'm like, you ready to go? And he's like, yeah. And so I start loading up stuff out of in my pack, and he's like, I got to go use the bathroom. I'm like, all right. So he goes and does his biz, and he comes back, and we load up, and he was kind of walking in front of me on this trail, and I'm like, bro, like, did you step in it? Because it's killing me right now. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, bro, you smell straight up just poopy dude, And we're looking around, and he's like, no. And I'm like, well, he's like, maybe I just farted. It was funny. So I'm like, I don't know, man. So we get hiking again. I'm like, bro, like I can't stand behind you. It's horrible. It's just hitting in the face, man. It's straight up off the crap. And he's like, I don't know. So he gets like, well, maybe I got some toilet paper in my overalls, and so he wore these overalls, these are coveralls. Well, no overalls, yeah. And so he throws his pack off, and he's kind of looking around. And he takes these overalls and unsnaps them and comes off, and I'm like, oh my god. So he's facing away, dude, and there's just shit from his shoulders down to his butt. And I'm like, dude, it's all over you. And he's like, what? And so he didn't, when he squatted.
How deep are you into the woods right now?
Oh, we're back in their ways, bro.
On an all-dayer. Okay.
He freaking didn't, when he went to go squat, he didn't pull his coveralls all the way through. So he pooped on his back of his coveralls, stood up and grabbed those suckers and just threw them on, and it was all over him, dude.
And he didn't feel the warmth. He didn't smell it. He had a kind of like a hoodie on, like a thicker. He wouldn't have. I don't think he would have felt it. Oh my goodness!
Apparently, he can't smell either, but it is gross, dude. So there's a creek. I'm like, dude, there's a creek a quarter mile away. Let's go over there to that creek, and that's the only thing I can think of. So we go over, and this dude takes off the coveralls and that everything he's got poop on, washes it out as best he can. And we kind of clean up with what we could, and he's like, "Well, these are staying here." So this dude is walking out in boxers and just like a t-shirt and a backpack, and just laughing the whole time. It made it worth it, but that was one of those guiding moments where you're like, I do not make enough money off this.
Yeah. God, that's too funny. I like that he had such a good attitude. Like he didn't shit himself, but he shit himself, right? And he's still just like, yeah, well, it is what it is. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's too funny, man.
That was awesome.
it reminds me. I'll tell you this story. It's actually one of the episodes, one of my early episodes. I'm trying to blank on the gentleman's name, so I'll have to remember here. Either way, he's hunting, and he woke up that morning and he just didn't feel well. But he's like, you know what? I gotta hit a limited tag. I gotta go out. I gotta go hunting. And so he's out there DIY with his bow, and his stomach's just grumbling and grumbling and grumbling, and like all day he's just like struggling with it, and he just never quite feels right. And then he gets into some bulls and starts calling, and he calls in this bull to, I don't remember exactly what he says in the story. We'll say 20 yards for the case of continuing. But he calls his bulls in and he goes full draw, and the bulls stop behind this bush, and he's just waiting for this bull to come out, and he's sitting there waiting, and he feels his stomach grumble. And all of a sudden, he's got so much tension in his shoulders and his upper body, he's not really paying attention to the tension that he needs to be paying attention to. And he just lets go, not of his bow, but just shits himself. And he's telling me that it was just one of those scenarios where, like, it filled his boots. It was not solid. Like, it just went straight down, boots full. Oh. He's full draw, just his pants just full of crap. It's just like, ugh. And the bull got away. He did not shoot that bull. I don't think he wanted to have that bull anyways. But yeah, so pretty ridiculous story. I'm trying to remember the dude's name. I could look it up, but I'll put a link to it in the show notes. So if people want to listen to that episode, pretty funny stuff, man. And it's just a little bit in line with the story you just told, Eric.
Oh, dude, I got so many poop stories. That's what's so weird about hunting, man.
Yeah, we'll have to do a poop episode someday, maybe. Yeah, well, cool, man. Unless you have any other stories you want to share, that was a great one to finish it off, right? Yes. Otherwise, why don't you tell the folks a little bit more about, you said you had a couple other products. Do you want to share anything about those, or you just want to keep it to capture today?
Yeah, I mean, for the hunting crowd, I mean, it's base camp with a K instead of a C. We do have some premium freeze-dried meals, which is ironic because I pivoted to this capture. So we have some meals on there. They're like just kind of design them to taste good and perform. But yeah, we just couldn't get our co-packer in Utah. It just was a problem with COVID, and then just the money suck on that and things. And so we still have some of those available. But the quarter pads it does really well. It's just a 6-ounce little pad that you can. It's waterproof. It's reusable. You can machine wash. It's got little pockets for rocks and stakes. But
cool.
It's just for a quarter, man. You throw it out. You put your quarters on. It keeps them clean from the debris. You can some guys wrap them up and put them in their packs, and then take them home and just spray it off, and you can reuse it. They're pretty affordable. The deer one I think is 20, and the elk size one's 30.
Oh, that's super cheap compared to like most other like miscellaneous random small tarps that you can buy from all the other companies. Hundreds of bucks. So that's cool.
It's a nylon ripstop, and we are working on a newer version now that Capture's launched, and I can breathe a little bit, but Captures with a K, that's our new thing, and that's where we're super excited, man. I mean, it's the time and effort to get here, to finding the right people to back it, and partners, and like I said, we just launched, and it's just nice to see a product kind of people get excited about using it and stuff. And the Digiscope system isn't new, but we kind of feel like we put our name as being the best, right? Like, this is machined aluminum. It's a lifetime warranty. Like, it's a legit modular system. You can, if in some cases, like if you have a binocular and a BTX, you can actually put the BTX threaded eye cup on, so you're ready to film. And then we have a tape version, so like your SIG buddy could put a number 1 ring on there, and he could just go between the two without really swapping out any parts, because both his optics would be capture compatible. So he would just take his device off. The adapter, you can swap out mag rings. So if it's the same size, like a size 2, you can go between optics without doing anything. Pop it right off the one optic and slap it on the other. No oversize, no bolt.
No way. That's cool. I don't think anybody else does that. That's awesome. And he's a little attached to his duct tape that he's got to put together there and his solid chunks of metal, but I'll let him know.
Go for it, man.
Yeah. Well, Eric, man, where would you prefer people to find you? Find Capture, give them some of the links or the socials, and then we'll wrap this thing up, man.
Yeah, so it's Capture Gear. I'm stuck on K, so it's Capture with a K. CaptureGear.com is where the new magnetic system is. And then one thing I'll give a plug for is Killshot Central is something I started for Killshot. It's just an audience to market to. So Killshot Central is a pretty decent channel. If you got kill shots, submit them in. I always tag and repost, but it's got a pretty big audience on Insta, Facebook, and then YouTube. So
awesome, man.
Find me
Awesome.
all right, man.
There we go. And I'll put everything, links in the show notes. Make it easy for everybody. Eric, man, this was fun. I really enjoyed hearing your unique perspective. I don't get enough guide stories. I've always thought about having more guides on to tell those kind of fun stories. I feel like you get some more truth when it's not a story about themselves, right? They're telling about other people.
Right.
So thank you, man. I appreciate it. This was fun.
I had a blast, dude. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, bud. And everyone, please make sure you check out the show notes. And go check out Capture. I'm pretty excited to check it out myself. So thank you, man.
Yep. Thanks, dude.
All right, guys. That's it. Another couple stories in the books. I want to thank Eric again for coming on. I really enjoyed all the guide tales, right? The grumpy customers, the customers shitting themselves, all the adventures that come with trying to help someone shoot an elk. So thank you, Eric. I really do appreciate it. Listeners, please check out the links, man. Check out Capture Gear. Check out Killshot. Check out all the cool stuff that he's doing. All the links are easy for you in the notes of the show you're watching or listening to right now. Beyond that, guys, if you have a story or if you know someone who's got a crazy story, have them get in touch with me. Instagram's a great way to do it. I also have a link on there that you can kind of shoot me a note through a Google survey or something like that. But either way, make sure you review us, share us with your friends. Thank you guys for tuning in. Now get out there and make some stories of your own.